beginning of the year, I really wanted to help my students think about the book choices that they were making in our classroom and school library. And as we're still testing and kind of figuring out levels, and before they have all of that information, I wanted them to have some simple tools and strategies to help them in choosing a good fit book. And that's kind of where the idea came to me for this object lesson. I raided my closet at home and brought in a bunch of shoes, and as you can see here, we started with a conversation. I brought in the most glittery, sparkly shoes that I have. Don't ask me why I even have, I don't know why I have them. But I have all kinds of fun shoes, and I brought them in and I asked the students, what is this? What would I use it for? Where would I wear it? I gave them some interesting scenarios, like would I wear this hiking? Would it only be good at a party? And so on and so forth. They really got into that conversation. It was kind of an exciting jumping off point. A lot of kids wanted, especially the girls, to try on my sparkly glittery shoes. So the next thing we did was we had everybody line up and take off their shoes. We continued our discussion. We talked about what goes into the decision-making process in the morning about what shoes we're going to wear. Obviously, we want to make sure we grab our own shoes. My students live in a residential setting, so some students had some stories about how if they grabbed another student's shoes by mistake, they wouldn't fit, they would be too tight, they would be too big. We talked about how we would want to choose shoes that were appropriate for what we were going to be doing for the day, and also shoes that we like the look of. I brought some more shoes out, some flip-flops, some heels, some boots, all different kinds of things, sneakers, lined them up, and we talked about what kind of person might choose each of those pairs of shoes. We talked about what kind of day we might wear those shoes to embark upon. And then I had the students go ahead and try on some of the pairs of shoes, which was of course the most fun that we had the whole time. And the whole time that we're having this conversation and they're trying on the shoes, I keep asking them, does it matter if they fit? Does it matter if you like them? Questions like this to keep those seeds planted. Once everybody had their own shoes safely back on their feet, we gathered over at our reading area and we started talking about what makes a book a good fit book. We talked about the reasons that we choose the books that we choose, and a lot of students offered that they choose a book by its cover, the way that it looks, if it appeals to them, by what the book's about. Kids that love reading about snakes will choose a book about snakes, and kids that love reading about space will choose a book with a rocket ship on the cover. We talked about how a lot of times students aren't considering the level of the book and how that is important, because if the book is too big for them or too small for them, too hard or too easy, then it's not a good fit. We read a book together and talked about why we knew that book was a good fit. We read through the words. We didn't come across any words that we didn't know. At the end, we were able to answer questions about the story to show that we comprehended what happened in the story. We talked about why this is an important part of reading. We also talked about the genres of books that students are interested in reading and how sometimes you can get stuck in a rut. Reading the same kinds of books over and over again is no better than wearing the same pair of shoes every single day, even if it's not a good fit for the situation. Sometimes you want to try something new and branch out and explore some other interests and some other ideas and genres and types of books. I also showed the students some books that were definitely above their grade level. I showed them The Invention of Hugo Cabret. I had some volunteers reading through the passages and really struggling with some words. Then I purposefully took a book called The Immortal Poems of the English Language, a book I had from my college days out, and chose a very strong reader to read one of the poems. As I hoped, she was able to read the poem beautifully without stumbling over words. Every single word, she pronounced it correctly. But when I asked her to explain to me what the poem was about, obviously because I believe it was Tennyson, she couldn't. The language was way too hard. She had no idea what she had just read. And we talked about why that book, even though she could read all the words, was not a good fit for her, because some books are just too big for us at this point in time. During center time, students organized different passages by whether or not they were a good fit. Then they went into the classroom library in search of good fit books. Students chose books based on the principles we had just learned about and then defended their choices to a partner and provided evidence to prove that the books they chose were good fit books. Throughout the rest of the month, students were applying the ideas and anecdotes from this lesson and connecting them back to the idea of finding a good fit.